We're going head to head with the Connemara Cask Strength Peated Single Malt Irish Whiskey and the Corryvreckan Islay Single Malt Scotch Whiskey. The Connemara Cask Strength Peated Single Malt Irish Whiskey is made from Scotch peated barley and Irish unpeated barley. It is a non-aged statement, aged in ex-bourbon cask. It is non-chill filtered, has natural color, bottled at 57.9% alcohol by volume, and sells for about $75. The Ardbeg Corryvreckan is a non-aged statement whiskey aged in ex-bourbon and French oak cask, bottled at 57.1% alcohol by volume, and sells for about $90. However, the bottle I am reviewing, I paid a year or more or so ago about $75. Welcome to another episode of Erik Wait Whiskey Studies, and in this video I'm going to do a review of both of these whiskeys side by side. Now, this is going to require a little bit of explaining because I've had to do a lot of homework on this whiskey. Now, if you haven't seen it already, I already did a video which I did an uncorking of this Connemara Cask Strength Peated Irish Single Malt Scotch Whiskey. And I didn't give her a point score, even a preliminary point score, and there were a number of different issues. If you notice, I have a different cork in here because the original cork actually broke during the video. Check out the video, it's somewhat humorous. This is an artificial cork. If anybody from Cooley Distillery is watching this, may I highly recommend switching to an artificial cork. This one fits quite nicely. That's why I don't throw these away. I keep them in case one breaks. So, one of the ways in which I describe this whiskey is it seems much more like petrol. It has a kerosene note, a gasoline note, almost like diesel fuel, right? And other people in the comment section said, yeah, it reminds them of diesel fuel. Now you can debate whether it's a Mercedes diesel or a Ford diesel. I think I'm leaning a little bit more towards like a Ford diesel over a Mercedes diesel, but hey, you know, taste can be somewhat subjective on these things. But it didn't stay that way, which is a good thing because I would be really, really disappointed. The neck pour, and even down to the shoulder, that diesel note stuck around. So, and I do this a lot with a lot of whiskeys, and when I'm waiting for them to open up in the morning, say 6:30 in the morning, just before I head off to work, pour some in a glass, smell it, can't taste it, don't want to be drinking whiskey before I go to work, smell it, then put a coin over it. This one's from the Whiskey Tribe, it's an old Whiskey Tribe coin. Put it over the top. It'll be there for about 12 hours because I won't approach it again until after dinner that evening. So from 6:30 in the morning to about 6:30 in the evening, and see how much it has developed. And definitely it had radically changed in those 12 hours. Now, both wines and whiskeys benefit from aeration, but to a limit. With wines, with young wines can seem as if the various components aren't working cooperatively. It can seem sort of dysfunctional. It can seem out of balance. You let them aerate, you decant them, and they become much more harmonious. With older wines, they can seem quite muted, almost as if somebody's sort of, you know, sort of gagging. And so it needs time, a little bit of air to open up. Whiskeys can, not always, can have a similar experience. It's not that, you know, this space between here and here is somehow different than all this necessarily. It's a matter of gaining oxygen. But merely pulling a cork on a wine or a whiskey doesn't do a whole lot because you're not getting a whole lot of exposure with this little bit of space, right? So you might want to do your neck pours by putting it into a glass like this, put a topper on it, you know, put a coin. By the way, I have my own coins. I can talk about that some other time. You can send $20. I'll show you. Wasn't planning on turning this into a sales pitch, but I have a very large coins. These are $20. If you send your address and $20 to erikwait@yahoo.com via PayPal, don't forget to include your address. I'll mail one of these out to you. This will actually fit a larger Glencairn right on top. And with my mug on there, my face on there, it'll actually somewhat stay in place. So that's what I did. Put one of my coins over the top. 12 hours later, come back to it, and the petrol note greatly reduces. Now, I noticed that note, although to a lesser degree, with the regular 40 ABV Connemara as well. In my original review of the Connemara, I said it reminded me of a slight petrol note that I sometimes get on German Rieslings. All right. Well, that is like tenfold for the cask strength, and almost to the point where it can become, it's off-putting. A little bit, it can be an interesting note, but with the cask strength, it was really, really off-putting. Part of my initial response to the whiskey was not only in terms of it just having this huge punch and a huge bite. I mean, it's at 57.9% alcohol by volume. You can expect that. I mean, duh, right? And it's an uncorking, right? So you're going to want to put some water in it. You try it on ice and try it different ways. But in uncorking, that's how you try it. So does that petrol note eventually diminish, or does it at least sort of more integrate into the whiskey so that it's not as noticeable? Now, this glass here, I've already done this once. And it worked, and that petrol note went away. This here has been sitting here for almost 24 hours. So I'm going to be trying it that way. Now, in a sense, this is my first formal review of this whiskey, and I haven't given a point score to it yet, because in my uncorking video, I didn't want to give it a score. So this will be the first time I give this a score. Now, once I essentially do my first review of this, then I want to do the Corryvreckan. I'll explain why I'm doing the Corryvreckan when I get to it. Alrighty, 24 hours, been sitting here in a glass. Let's get into it. Color-wise, it's sort of a light, pale straw, actually quite bright and shiny on the nose. Ooh. So I'm not getting a nose full of petrol. I'm not getting a nose full of diesel gasoline. And yet, oddly, it doesn't have a huge nose at all. It was the same thing with, I noticed with the 40 ABV, that not only did the petrol note go away, but the intensity of the peat seemed to diminish as well. It is still there a little bit. I'm getting lemon and lime, I'm getting vanilla, a little bit of apple and pear, and a little bit of smoke. A little bit of tropical note, maybe like a canned pineapple. Reason why I've seen people on YouTube shake the glass and swirl it around. It's not wine. The reason why you swirl a wine is to coat the side of the glass, because you're not smelling from the base, you're smelling from the side of the glass, right? So as the wine goes down the side of the glass, it fills up this empty space here, and that's where you're smelling from. Same things with whiskey. But if you shake if you shake a whiskey up, okay, mostly what you can get is just alcohol. You're not getting all the esters, the congeners that you want off the whiskey. So don't shake it. Don't swirl it like it's a wine. Don't do that. Instead, just angle the glass and turn it sideways. You've seen me do this in other videos, but I don't comment on why I do it. Just angle like this and turn it sideways. So I'm coating the side of the glass. I'm coating the side of the glass. I do this with the dessert wines as well. Sort of thicker, heavier, sweeter dessert wines as well. Because I don't want a nose full of alcohol. I want everything else that's in there. So the apple pear, the quality of the apple and pear is more sort of like candy-like. And I would say it's a little more Irish. But that petrol note is still there. The diesel note is there. It's just not as intense. All right, on the palate. So, huge evolution, huge evolution. Those notes that I gave on the nose show up on the front. The apple, the pear, lemon and lime, just a touch of petrol note. But in the mid palate, it switches to savory and barbecue, which I really, really like. There's a saltiness there as well, a brininess. But you get the savory barbecue rub notes, charred meat, and the mid palate going into the finish. And it's got a really long finish. The bite, that sort of, that makes it so shocking bite, has diminished as well. Now, I've tried this on ice. I've tried a little bit of water, and very, 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 very similar. This can take some ice. So it's on a hot day, right? California right now is on fire. And it's very, very, still hitting 100 degrees. We're in October now, still hitting 100 degrees here. Nice to have it on ice. It does quite well. So I very much like the evolution. I like the development of it. I like the savory notes of it. I like that it has the fruit up front. It has some nice chocolate and caramels on the back end. It's mildly sweet. It's not super sweet. It's mildly sweet. But I'm going to say this, and this is the issue I have with this whiskey. I feel as if I am fighting to like it. It's a struggle to like it. I'm having to work too hard to like this whiskey. A whiskey shouldn't have to spend 24 hours in a glass, 12 hours in a glass to be approachable. The neck pour, and even the first, it was hugely disappointing. It was off-putting, and I can see a lot of people, if they didn't know how to diffuse the whiskey to get rid of the petrol notes, right? And that was their first impression of it, they would go, what the hell is that? I am not drinking that. I understand wines and whiskeys can need time to breathe. They benefit from air and all that, right? I have the patience to deal with that in whiskeys. But this takes more work and more time than what is typical for any other whiskey than I've ever had. And I think it's too much. From an academic standpoint, so this is Erik Wait Whiskey Status, what is the issue? Is that the quality of the peat? If they're getting their peated barley from Port Ellen, there are no distilleries on Islay that have this issue. I thought about taking this and go up against a Lefroy. Lefroy, you can get when you first open them, like a Lefroy 10, you get a note sometimes that's like a Sharpie black pen, which can be a little off-putting, but Lefroy has a sweetness there, even on a neck pour, that makes it really, really nice. And it's got a lot more going on, right? So, and they open up really, really nice. You get a lot of nice chocolate and mint, chocolate-covered mint character. This has a little bit of sweetness, about 3/4 on the way back. The chocolate note shows up in the way back. Once you actually have had 3 or 4 sips, a little alcohol in there, that petrol note is almost like completely gone. However, if I'm breathing in and out, breathing some air in to sort of exaggerate the follow through on the finish, or even if you've tried this, smack in the lips as to whatever's residual in there, try that. I know it sounds strange. I wouldn't normally want to do that in a video. It can kind of revive or pull out more out of the finish. The petrol note, that kerosene, gasoline, diesel fuel note sticks around. If they're getting their peated barley from the same place a lot of other Islay distilleries are getting the peat, and if they're using Irish peat, which isn't peated, which you would think would sort of counterbalance some of that, I don't understand why it has these gasoline notes. I've been reading on the internet, what are the symptoms of a whiskey that is heavy on the feints, right? So you have your foreshots or your heads. You have the heart, which is the center when you're doing the cut with the spirit bank. And then you have the feints, right? The end parts. Most of them described as being sulfur and egg, like rotten eggs or something like that. I'm not getting that, which made me go, okay, maybe they aren't dipping into the feints too much, right? How they're doing the cuts, but they're doing something which no other distillery is doing to get these notes out, and I don't know what it is. Is it the quality of the barley? I don't know. But whatever it is, they need to make a change. They need to make a change. This is not going to be a whiskey on its own like this that I'm going to tell people to run out and buy for $75. What am I doing in terms of score? I'm going to give it 80 points, 80 points, 80 points. And you've been following me for a while, almost 79, right? 79, 80 points, somewhere in that range. And for $75, and you know, for that much of money, there's just far too many whiskeys that I would recommend that you try before getting into it. Now, sounds like the competition's over. Why bother even with the Corryvreckan? Because now I'm going to talk about the greatness of Corryvreckan. I'll put this back on here and drink some water, and then we'll get into the Corryvreckan. Alrighty, so I've already reviewed the Corryvreckan. I put the Corryvreckan up against other whiskeys. There's a debate within the cult of Ardbeg. What is the best quarter range whiskey from Ardbeg? Some go Uigeadail, which is more of a heavy sherry cask finish, and some say Corryvreckan. For me, I can change from day to day. One day I'm more towards a sherry cask, you know, with the Uigeadail. Another day I'm with the Corryvreckan. They're absolutely fantastic. So why did I go with the Corryvreckan to go up against the Connemara? Number one is, in terms of quality of peat, what is it most like? It's actually more like, as I was already talking about, a Laphroaig. However, a Laphroaig, it would have to be a Laphroaig 10-year-old, the normal bottling, which here in the United States is 43 ABV. I think over in the UK it's still 40 ABV. The problem is it wouldn't be a good match in terms of the ABV. But in terms of the strangeness of the quality of the peat notes, it's closer, relatively closer to that than it is anything from Ardbeg. But I wanted a whiskey that was close in ABV and that still had a heavy peat character. If I went Laphroaig 10 cask strength, which I have, it would be like, you know, I don't know, Mike Tyson going up against Pee Wee Herman. Not even close. The Laphroaig 10 cask strengths, regardless of whatever batch you have, are so superb. So superb. And price-wise, you're getting up to $90 and more, right? So when I bought this Corryvreckan, I paid probably around $75 for it. It's now selling for $90. You saw there in the notes. So price-wise, in terms of what I paid for them, they're comparable. Although this is now going for a bit more now. Probably because of the tariffs, probably because they've adjusted the prices of the quarter range due to the introduction of the Ardbeg 5-wee Beastie taking a place and then bumping up the Ardbeg 10, and then the rest sort of move up $5 to $10. Who knows? Anyhow, the reason why I want to do these two head-to-head, one, because I thought ABV, the more comparable, 57.9, 57.1, price-wise, at least when I bought them, a little bit more comparable, but also to sort of make a point that this is how this should be. This should be. Whatever it is they're doing so that it comes out like this, I'm really hoping actually someone from Cooley will watch this and listen to this. I doubt it, but I hope they will. Whatever it is you're doing, you need to change whatever it is you're doing, right? People should not be suffering to get the whiskey to where it's palatable, and it's just ridiculous. Now, this is an absolutely superb whiskey. Let's take a look at it. A little bit darker, not that that really matters, don't really care. The Ardbeg 10 is a light color. The Ardbeg 10 actually looks a lot more like the Connemara. It's got nice dried black fruit notes, fig, dates, raisins. It's got a nice chocolate note there. There's nothing offensive, you know. There's no there's no kerosene, no gasoline. You know, there's nothing that makes you think, oh, you ever. Thankfully, I've never had this experience, but I've seen people do it. People are siphoning gas. Same thing, they put gasoline into their lawnmower. So they're going to take some gasoline out of the tank of the car. They get a hose, they put it into the tank of the car, and what do? They suck on the hose to get the gasoline going, to put it into a gas tank thing, you know, a little holder to put in the lawnmower, and they don't pull it out of their mouth fast enough, and it comes up, and because they're siphoning out, and it goes into the mouth. The next thing you know, they got gasoline in their mouth, right? Thankfully, I've never had that experience, and I never will, right? Because I don't siphon. I'm not going to get it in siphoning gas, but I've seen people do that. That is what the Connemara cask strength is like, at least for the first few glasses. At least until you get it to open up and aerate it. All right, I know I'm beating this up really, really hard. I know. This is the way it should be. This is the way it should be. More than likely, these two bottles are getting their peated barley from the exact same place. More than likely, both from Port Ellen. Nice. It's got a nice smokiness. It's got a barbecue note. It's got dried black fruit notes. It's got some like grilled peach and grilled pear, grilled apple, nice caramels and chocolate. Almost like a little bit of a nougat there. It has nice vanillas. It's got a slight salty sea breeze character there as well. It's nice and rich on the nose. There's a savory note and a sweet note and a smoky note, all right? I like, if you can hit the 5 S's, right? Smoky, salty, savory, and sweet, right? Then you're hitting there's another S in there I should add in as well. Wow, then you're hitting all my buttons. You're hitting everything that I want in a whiskey. And this Corryvreckan does a really good job of that. All right, on the palate. Nice. I like that the Corryvreckan has enough strength, enough oomph. It has enough intensity of flavor that it completely takes the Connemara Cask drink out of my mouth. I can no longer taste this. When I was tasting this off camera, and even when I wasn't tasting it, and you walk around and there's that sort of lingering, a lot of times what was lingering, I was still getting that petrol note, as if I'd been siphoning gasoline. This totally wipes that out. Absolutely phenomenal. Phenomenal. You know, I'd probably go 92, somewhere in between 92 and 95 points, somewhere in there. You know, it's a definitely 90 plus whiskey. Absolutely superb. So I actually, to be honest with you, I feel bad that, because I like Irish. I'm falling in love with Ireland. I'm falling in love with Irish whiskeys. I really, really like Irish whiskeys. I've liked other bottlings that I've had from Kilbeggan and Cooley Distilleries. Really, really liked them. I don't like beating up on a whiskey, but I gotta tell it like it is. I gotta tell my viewers the way it is, and hopefully, someone's watching and they're gonna make some changes because this is really, really unpalatable. And maybe that's an overstatement. This bottle probably will get finished. It's just too much work to get it there. It's just too much work to get it there. I don't have to work as hard. I don't have to go, oh, son of a bitch. No, I can pour and relax and chill and have a really, really good time. And it's not going to have a bad aftertaste. Alrighty. So, needless to say, the Corryvreckan. Now, I can put this up against any Lefroy. I can put this up anything on Islay. Any peated wheat on Islay, and it's going to lose. And it's going to lose. All right. If you like watching my videos and reviews, you've not yet subscribed, I want to ask that you subscribe, ring the bell to be notified when I go live or post a new video. If you've ever had this Connemara and you've got something different than what I got, maybe your experience is totally, there's always a possibility I've got a bad bottle, but I don't think so because there are correlations between this and the other Connemara. This is just more intensified. But if you've had a completely different experience, let me know. There are some other bottlings of Connemara I want to try. Maybe that weird note is a youth note. Maybe they need to age it more. I don't know. I'd like to try the Connemara 12, and there's another one, the Toughmore, the Super Peated. I'd like to try those as well. Hopefully, they're better than we got in this experience. Alrighty. If you are one of my patrons, I want to thank you very much for supporting this channel, becoming a little part of my little group. I want to thank you very much. And I want to thank you for watching this video to the end. It's a little bit longer. Any comments, any questions you have, leave them on down below, and I will respond. All right. Until next time, cheers.